Okay, here's all the work and answers for this one. You just need to see that, and then we'll go through each part here. Part A I thought was kind of tricky. It says find the values at which the speed is equal to 2. And then what I want you to remember, speed is the absolute value of velocity. I got that somewhere in your blue packet. Speed is the absolute value of velocity. Like the velocity is negative 50 miles per hour. The negative is part of the vector. That's the velocity. That's like the direction is going downward, but the speed is just 50 miles per hour. So just kind of remember that. And then, so if you want to know where the speed is equal to 2, that's where the absolute value of that velocity function is equal to 2. Now, this is a difficult equation to solve, but you're on the calculator part of the test. So remember how to do this. Move everything to one side, set it equal to 0, and graph this function in the calculator. If you forgot how to do that, rewatch that graphing calculator video for you, and it'll show you how to graph it in between the certain interval between 2 and 4, and then it'll calculate those zeros for you. So please make sure you're practicing on your own. Get the speed up with that, get the comfortability level up with that, and be good with that calculator part of the problem. Now, letter B says write an expression involving an integral that gives the position. We know to get from velocity to the position, we're supposed to integrate that. So when you integrate the velocity, that'll get you to the position there. But remember, when you do a position, you always have to take into account the initial position. This just tells you where you went in between 0 and t seconds, but you got to always take into account that initial position. That's why it gives you, when you read that first problem, it might even help you when you see stuff like that to just do a little underline or box it or something, just to kind of, at some point in the problem, you're going to use that, all right? So I just said my initial position was a 10, and when I integrate between 0 and some time period of that velocity function, that's going to tell me how far I went. That's going to give me my position. Now, a little technicality here. We're using different letters here. Pretty sure it's not a huge deal if you just use T's and T's there, but they don't have to be the same thing. My mindset, if we were to integrate that and get X's in there, and then we would take the T and plug them in there after that, then we got the T that everybody's happy with right there, okay? You also don't need to write the whole function. You could just say V of T instead of writing that whole thing. And then when you're supposed to do S of 5, you're taking the 5, plug it in for that T right there. You got to math 9 that thing. So I would have had 10 plus first, then math 9 that function, because you got to do the math 9 between 0 and 5 of that velocity function right there. So integrate that. That'll give us a position. You remember to take into account the initial position. Boom, you got your position after 5 seconds or minutes, whatever we're talking about here. Now, if you do just integrate the velocity and get an answer, but you forget the plus 10, you will still get some credit for that. It's just not the whole credit there. So we've seen a few of those where you got to make sure you take into account that initial position. And then part C, it says find the time which the particle changes direction. Particle changes direction where the velocity is equal to 0. Think about when the ball goes up in the air and it comes back down, the velocity change from positive to negative. Or if you're just running right and left, your velocity changes positive and negative right there. So what you need to do is figure out where the velocity is equal to 0. Now, here's the thing on the rubric. If you just write down V equals 0, then you're going to get at least a point for that, right? But you got to make sure the velocity is changing sign. So what you're going to do to tell this is you're going to graph this function in the graphing calculator in between 0 and 5. So hit your window button, make that your X min, your X max, and just a graph will pop up that looks like this. And then you're going to let the calculator find those zeros for you. You should be able to get that. And you got to practice that every single time you need to do that, okay? Rewatch the graphing calculator video if you need to, but make sure you know how to find those zeros right there and ask some individual questions if you need to as well. But also, this is great justification because this is my velocity graph, and I'm showing that my velocity changed from negative to positive and positive to negative, that velocity change sign. So that's the key right there. The particle changes direction at those time periods because the velocity changes sign. That's the biggest part of that. And then letter D, it says, is the speed increasing or decreasing? This is not the first time we've seen this. You know from your blue packet from the other test, speed is increasing, the velocity acceleration have the same sign. Speed is decreasing, the velocity acceleration have opposite sign. So whenever you see that question posed to you, you need to plug the 4 into the velocity function and the acceleration function. So V of 4 is just a matter of taking a 4, plugging it in for that T right there, and then you got your answer as negative. And then A of 4, That's the derivative of that velocity function. Now, you're not going to waste your time taking this derivative and then plugging in 4 when it's on the calculator part of that test right there. The calculator will do that derivative for you. That's your math 8 function. So math 8, this function at x equals 4, and it'll give you that's negative. Now I got my speed is increasing at t equals 4, since that velocity and acceleration have the same sign. Another way, if you wanted to, since speed is the absolute value of velocity, you could graph the absolute value of that function and then hit the trace button, type in 4, it puts you right there. That function is increasing at 4. So there's your speed function. That speed function is increasing at that t equals 4. Cherry pie.